It's awesome.
I warned you.
It's so, the competition is so much better. Organization.
The layout of the fields, all that stuff, yeah.
But you're exhausted.
It's worth it, though.
Yeah, it is.
It's worth it. You've seen those kids, you know, do what they do.
Especially since we've beaten we drew the first game. Played all California teams, we've beaten them.
That makes
So we should be national playoffs in a high position.
I love it.
How many local kids you got there?
From Harriman, only one.
Right.
That's just on, literally just on the other side of 118th in that new part of Daybreak over there.
The White Ramsey stuff.
And then we've got kids from Ogden to.
You ever been? There's huge places in Texas.
You ready? You ready?
But
You
you
good?
could recognize the state.
Are we in a Commonwealth state? Okay, we'd like to welcome everybody this evening to our city council meeting. We are going to get started with a Pledge of Allegiance. I'm excited tonight from our Girl Scout Troop 367. Thank you for being here, girls. We'll turn the time over to you.
Audience, please rise. Put your right hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Good job, girls. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being here and helping us tonight.
You guys are way better than the Boy Scouts.
Don't tell them that, though. You sell good cookies, too. So, well, thank you.
Maybe Chiefs guys aren't for them.
Move on to item 4.2, city council comments and recognitions. Anything from council tonight? Teddy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, awesome job to the city employees, especially the plow guys that came out early this morning. I know they worked their butts off, so thanks for that. I mean, the streets were clear for everybody to get to school, and they did a really good job. Also, I've been meeting with admin at the schools, and there's some amazing things happening in our schools, our school districts, and our charter schools, and look forward to some awesome stuff coming out of there. So I just wanted to give some recognition to those amazing admin that are doing some awesome jobs. So thanks to them.
I just wanted to give a big shout out to all those who in our community who attended their caucus meetings last night. It's just such an important part of what happens in our government is when our residents, our citizens get involved and get informed. I think government is better. So I applaud efforts by all who take the time to go out, get involved, find out what's going on, put themselves out there for some of these positions, you know, and just it's really good for our city to see so much civic involvement and things like that. So I appreciate everyone who came out. I applaud them.
Thank you. Anything? I'd like to recognize the Harriman Harmonics, who put on a phenomenal performance last week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 performances, mostly sold out the whole week. It was a great show. Thank you. I know they volunteer their time to do that, and had a lot of people come out to those and made an enjoyable evening. So thank you to them. Also want to recognize we had a lot of Harriman people show up to the home match for the rugby team on Saturday. That is a blast. Get out. I mean, I recommend everybody go try a rugby game. It's Big Buddha. They got Buddha there doing he's like PA announcer. Like they score a try, they call it. And it's not like soccer or anything. Like he's running on the field celebrating. He's running on the field like cheering when they score a try. It's the most laid back, great environment so anyways, and they won. Biggest attendance so far in Major League Rugby this year for a home match. So thank you to the Harriman, to the residents that showed up to support them. So. Okay, with that being said, we'll move on to item 5, public comment. I'm just going to read the note here on public comment. Audience members may bring any item to the city council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. Public comments for this meeting will also be conducted electronically. Any person interested in addressing the council may submit a comment by emailing recorder@harriman.org or by visiting harriman.org/agendas and minutes, where there is a link to fill out an online public comment form. Your statement will be incorporated into the public record. So with that, we'll open up the floor to any public comments tonight. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item 6, City Council Board and Committee reports.
I'll just start. The Wasatch-Free, Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling. We are on the County Council's agenda for March 22nd to, at the 4 o'clock session, to hopefully get approved the reorganization of the district and move us out of the special service district. So that's on for formal action. That will be the end of the public comment period, and they'll take final action on that night. So I'm really excited. It's finally to that point. I think it's a great move, and every municipality associated with the district have adopted resolutions in support of it. We even have the unincorporated portions of the county, the leaders of that sent a letter a couple of days ago to the county councils in support of it. So I feel good about it. I never want to jinx it by saying it will pass, but I'm glad about that, and I'm grateful it's gotten to that point. I think it will be a really good move for the district. We're also going to participate in a food waste recycling program. Did I talk to you about that last time? No. The trial is going to begin up, I think, in Cottonwood Heights, just to a very small, limited number of people. That they'll basically get a bucket that they keep in their house, and they dump their food waste in there, and then it's picked up on the curb once a week for food waste, and then it goes through a process. The methane is generated by that. There's apparently food waste is very slow to degrade at the dump, and it generates a lot of chemicals that actually kind of help with some of our inversion problems. It's like, interesting. So they're going to start that pilot program, and if it's successful, then the board will have the opportunity to roll that out to the different entities in our purview and make that decision. So that was kind of cool coming from them. And then I was just at the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District board meeting tonight, and I seem like I never have any good news. It is snowing out there. That's good news. That's really great news, actually. But please don't be confused and think that we're anywhere near out of this drought, because we are not. Beaver and Trial Lake are the two places that we monitor most heavily as far as our water usage, because that's the drainages that primarily feed the Wasatch Front for the district. Beaver, as of midnight last night, was at 60%. And Trial Lake was at 81%. So we needed to be at about 160% this year. So obviously we're way, still heavily in this drought. We just approved a motion this evening. I found the right paper for Weber Basin. So let me tell you this. In an average year, Weber Basin drainage, so they're a different district than ours, and they're in a different drainage area, obviously, but you'll probably remember Echo Reservoir and those reservoirs up there last year on the news about they were out of water. In an average year, Weber Basin drainage sees a runoff of approximately 324,000 acre-feet of water in 1 year. That's their average. Last year, they resulted in 7,000 acre-feet. So they went from 324,000 to 7,000 acre-feet last year for their runoff. So that should put in perspective the severity of what's going on up there. They're not going to have enough water. They issued a drought response. They're going to be doing 60% reduction in water available for outdoor, 40% reduction for agriculture, 10% reduction for culinary indoor. They have a lot of restrictions on how long your pop-ups can run and things like that. They've already issued and are going to have to go through the response, the drought response up there. Because they're our neighbors, how I would describe them. You have to understand the craziness of water. We get water from a lot of different places. We bring in a lot of water from out by Duchesne. We bring in water from Weber. We bring in water from a lot of different places to feed the need here in the Wasatch Front. And because we have the right to. Now, just because you have the right to do something doesn't necessarily mean that's what you should do, or else when you see somebody hurting, you should just simply be a good neighbor and help them out. So that was kind of the request that came from them this year. That's the way I would describe it anyway. Because Strawberry is in a relatively good spot right now, because a lot of Strawberry is central Utah water, and the storage in there isn't spoken for until necessarily 2030. So there's a little bit of water in there that's holdover water that there's some flexibility on right now. And so the district, so Jordan Valley is agreed tonight to make kind of some shifts in storage water and shifting the shells around to make sure that Weber gets about an extra 20,000 acre-foot this year. Kind of from us, about 15,000 of us going to come from, we'll still be made whole, but we're shifting it to try and be a good neighbor to make sure that they at least get some water so that they can meet the needs, so that people can flush their toilet, take a shower, sanitary kind of needs and things like that. So again, I'll just tell you, we have to just keep hoping and praying for snow. We actually saw snow reduction in January, February this year, which seems weird in the middle of winter because it doesn't get cold enough warm enough in the upper elevations, but apparently the sun can shine on it long enough that it can create some evaporation of the snow. So we even saw a reduction in the snowpack because of those types of things. So it's a problem. And we just have to continue to be diligently conserving water. When you're looking at your plans this year, the district has a great website for landscaping. So if you, right now, nobody's out landscaping right now, but this is a great time to make good plans to maybe make adjustments in your landscape to say, wow, we could take this out this spring and reduce our water footprint. So I would really encourage you to go on their website and look at some of the different design ideas they have and water conservation ideas they have to see if there isn't some things that you can start doing in the spring to really help conserve water, because it's a problem. So there's all my downers information I always seem to bring to these meetings, but it's just to make sure that sometimes we watch these snowstorms come in and we're like, wow, but it snowed. I had to shovel my driveway a few times this year. So it must be good, and the problem is that we're so far behind for so long now. It's interesting if you look at the patterns. Droughts come in a 30-year process. It's pretty interesting. Go back into the 1800s, and you can watch these 30-year cycles of these droughts. And so hopefully we're nearing the end of it, but there's nothing that says, and by this year it will be over. So we just have to continue to be just good users of water and smart users of water in our state. So those are mine.
Thank you.
You guys be happy.
Mayor, one more comment, and I apologize, this should have been in 4.2, but Sherry's comment reminded me. The water department was out and was able to give little green stickers to people that are overusing their water. One of my elderly neighbors called me over. They don't have a water leak, but they're using 30,000 gallons of water per month, which is a lot of water when they're only used to using 1,000 to 2,000 gallons a month. So their water bill, if your water bill's doubled or changed in the last couple of months, please check for water leaks. They do have a massive water leak in their front yard in their main line, so they're going to address that. But it's something they didn't notice for 6 months. So that's a lot of water, of 6 months of leaking. So check your water bills.
Any other committee reports? Okay, I don't have anything tonight either. We'll move on to item 7.1. A public hearing and consideration of an ordinance amending the Harriman City Municipal Council district boundaries. Jackie. And I will say, can I say something before? This is on the agenda tonight because I just felt like Jackie's very nervous, because 10 years ago, this was pretty contentious issue, but
From
we
what I've
tried
been
to,
told, yes.
yeah, so, but we put it out there to residents and, but with the feedback, so we feel like we're okay moving forward tonight, so.
Yeah, so I worked with our communications department. They did a great job of creating a website dedicated to the redistricting process where residents could leave comments if they desired, kind of see what those boundaries look like. We also pushed it out through social media avenues, encouraging public participation that way. We also held 2 open houses, excluding council members and staff that attended. There were a total of 3 attendees between both of them combined. Some of, there was one comment that we addressed. Some of them were, they wish that we could look more into the future to kind of plan those. And so we really haven't had a lot of public participation that way. And so we're looking to see if the council is feeling comfortable with this. We do have it on for a public hearing, and I encourage public participation tonight. And then the council can choose if they would like to continue this public hearing, if they want to close the public hearing and adopt this map, or if they would like staff to go another direction on those maps. Again, we can reduce the amount of districts that we have. We cannot create more districts. So if we decide that we want to do something that's, you know, either all at large or 3, that would just be at the direction of what the council wants to do. We were just going through and trying to get this to equally substantial population through each district. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do. And will you just clarify this for me? Because I think I know the answer, but I'll like to hear it from you. At some point in the future, we don't have to wait the full 10 years to redistrict, right? If in 4 years from now, all of a sudden, you know,
Right.
District 1 bloomed and it was crazy, you know, out of balance, we can redistrict again at that point, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're just required to do it after the legislative session. We have to do it within 6 months. We do have to do it before the beginning of May. But we can start this process up at any time if we feel like those numbers are really getting out of whack. These numbers are based off of the 2020 census, so they're already 2 years old almost. Numbers, there's some, like in Councilmember Henderson's district along 118th South, there was no residents there. And so there's things like that. There's a lot of growth that's happened in District 4. There's a lot of growth that will happen in District 3 as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can revisit this at any time that the council chooses.
Yeah, and I think even just for direction, as far as my suggestion would be that we just kind of once a year just say, are we getting out of balance? What are we looking at? I'm not suggesting at all we redistrict every year. I'm just suggesting that we keep a pulse on it, like maybe annually to say, oh, wow, you know, you
There's an
jumped.
obvious problem. Tell
Yeah,
us.
exactly. To adjust it
Could I recommend that we maybe do it every other year
every 2 years.
and in between election years?
Do it on an even number of years.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that,
so like if we have
That's a great idea.
council election this year, maybe in the interim year, we would make an adjustment so that the next time it's, I
So
don't
you're
know,
Yeah,
not
so,
trying to do it in the middle of having
election, yeah.
the election.
so even years would be, yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Every even year that we
Yeah.
can revisit it? Absolutely,
that'd
we
be
could do
good.
that.
Thank you, girls. Have a good night.
This was riveting for them.
It was. Yeah, I mean, my comment, I love it. I think it's well done. I appreciate your time to put on this.
Yeah, I second Steve's opinion, and I know you put a lot of effort into it and lamented over it, but I think you've done a great job, and staff.
Okay, well, let's do a public hearing, and then we can come back and make a motion on it. So this time I'll open it for public comment at this time. Open the public hearing.
Do you need a motion?
Not to open it. We'll close it here when nobody comes up. Okay, and we'll close. We okay closing?
Yes.
Right, but we're okay. Are we okay making a motion to close? Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Sherry. Second by Jared. Roll call vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion then. Sounds like we're okay. Look for a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2022-08, realigning the council district boundaries.
Motion by Jared.
Second?
Second by Teddy. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries.
Easy.
Good job, Jackie. Okay, move on to item 8.1, approval of monthly financial summary, the consent agenda. Look for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Sherry. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion carries. Move on to item 9.1, discussion and consideration of the following rezone requests. That one. Yes.
All right, I'm going to make this real brief. This 9.1 and 9.2 are essentially kind of the same item. So I'll get into the details a little bit on the first one, and then the second one we'll just go over kind of what the request is. But this is for a rezone amendment to this site in question here, the Academy Village site, where the Lee's shopping just opened up, and there's some additional projects going on there as well. In terms of consideration, these are the 4 criteria that we look at. You can see how the proposed plan meets each of those criteria and is consistent with the general plan provisions. We're looking at the east area general plan, and that polygon is not in the correct location. It should be, I'm not sure I can draw on this one or not. Anyways, it is consistent with the east area general plan as we've looked at by staff and the planning commission. It's showing as, on the plan it shows as mixed use, which includes high density residential and commercial as well, which is what the applicant is essentially proposing. This is the current zoning map now, and you can see on, so you've got the sides that are mixed or MU2, which is a mixed use zone, and then the C2, which is a commercial zone. So those are the mixed use is what's going to be changing on both of those sides, and on a portion of the C2 on the, I guess on the left side of Real Vista Drive. This is what the applicant is proposing. So to amend the MU2 zones on both of those sides to the C2, and then rezoning that kind of that northwestern portion to the RM zone for a residential high-density project that they're proposing. When this went before the Planning Commission, it was recommended for approval unanimously. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer anything I can.
How does that affect that housing to the south of that new C2 zone?
Housing to the south?
To the left?
So to the right-hand side, down the bottom, the brown Marble Rock Way and Rockhound Way and
So there is, well, in terms of being commercial, there are buffers that are built into the zoning ordinance. You have to have a 20-foot buffer with trees 15 feet on center that are evergreens. There are, certain things that can and can't face a residential area, lighting, sound, drive-throughs. So there are several protections in the C2 zone that will, that will limit the intrusion of a commercial or a commercial use in those areas. There is a subdivision being proposed on that portion as well for Pod 39 is what it's called in the Academy Village plan. And all of the lots are over 1 acre, so those will all be considered as conditional uses as they come into the city. So we can look at those conditional use impacts as well when those are considered.
okay, awesome.
Any other questions?
I think just for clarity, I think they're keeping the same number of units, they're just compiling them into one.
Yes, yeah,
Well,
and
then
that's what
just-
I'll get into on the next
Okay,
presentation.
perfect. Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Discussion?
I think we get more
Okay.
commercial and pile the units.
I just wanted to make one comment. When this originally came up in a work meeting, I made a comment about some issues with the master development agreement and a desire to correct those issues. I got some feedback from staff that they'd reached out to the developer, and the developer was kind of surprised that by some of the comments that had been made by parties not related to their development agreement, and that they were amenable to discussing with us some of our concerns and making adjustments as were appropriate. But I felt like the responses I got were very satisfactory at this time, so I think I'm willing to shelve my concern for the time being, so.
Steve?
Want a motion?
Yep.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2022-09, amending the Harriman City zoning map for 5.5 acres at 4001 West Bruin View Drive, Pod 39, and 4.46 acres at 4010 Real Vista Drive, Pod 35, be rezoned from MU2 mixed use to C2 commercial, to 0.24 acres at 4010 Real Vista Drive, Pod 35, be rezoned from MU2 mixed use to RM residential, and number 3.64 acres at 4097 Hondo Drive, Pod 35, be rezoned from C2 commercial to RM residential.
Motion by Sherry.
Get that right?
You got it right. Word for word.
I'll second that.
Second by Steve. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. 9.2, discussion and consideration of request to amend the land use designations for pods 35 and 39.
And this portion of the proposal is basically just to update the MDA, along with the rezone that was just approved. The applicant is requesting, see, this one has the dots in the right place. That's where the project is. So it was shown out in right field. So this is the existing land use master plan. So this is just an attachment to the MDA that staff can refer to when development comes through, so we can assure that, you know, the correct development is taking place in the correct areas. These two highlighted areas shown in pods 35 and 39 are both residential. What the applicant is proposing to do is combine those into one location. The number of units in the land use plan, or the land use table to the right, does not change. Those units just get combined and moved over into that pod 35, and they are breaking it down into pod 35A and B. So we're showing the number of residential units in pod 35A, and nothing else changes really with the plan. In pod 39, all of that becomes commercial. So this is, you know, as we mentioned before, this is consolidating more commercial space and moving that residential area to the south, or yeah, to the west anyways. This was also recommended for approval unanimously, so if there's any questions on this one, I'd be glad to answer.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Questions or comments, or I look for a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance number 2022-10, approving the South Hills Master Development Agreement amendment of the approved planned unit development and land use summary.
Motion by Steve.
Second.
Second by Jared. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
And Steve?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Okay, move on to item 9.3, consideration of a reimbursement agreement with Hidden Oaks. Blake?
Gonna shave my head and see if you confuse me with Jonathan, but I don't know if it'll work. I'm like 2 inches taller than him. Okay, so the background on this one, Danzy Boulevard, we already did an agreement for the north part that's going to the school, which, just on a side note, I got an update today and they're on schedule, and actually ahead of schedule on several items, so. But opposite from that, Hidden Oaks Pod 1 is highlighted or shaded on the map, and adjacent to that, running on the west side and curling around to the south and tying into 134 South is Danzy Boulevard. We call it Danzy Boulevard Phase 1. That was required to be constructed with the approval of Hidden Oaks Pod 1 because it's adjacent to the development and it's outlined in the MDA. But in the MDA, it also requires that the city reimburse the developer for the improvements from curb to curb. So, the basis of this presentation is this reimbursement agreement and how we pay for the improvements. So we'll get into talking about that. So the total cost of the improvements, in the staff report, there was a attachment that had the cost estimate for this project. And the total cost was $2.19 million. But as we reviewed that, only $738,000 about that was what's eligible for reimbursement. Other improvements were part of the project cost the developer needs to bear. So of the $738,000, which is eligible for reimbursement, out of our stormwater and water and transportation impact fees, it shows what can be reimbursed out of those impact fee funds, what's eligible. so about $425,000, a little bit more than that, is eligible, which leaves a balance of just over $300,000 that would need to be funded from either general fund or stormwater enterprise or water enterprise. So Jonathan did great work on this and analyzed which part of the project or what of the improvements would be paid for out of each fund. And it appeared that the water improvements were the ones that a lot of the improvements were not impact fee eligible. So jumping to the end here, we recommend reimbursing with water enterprise fund for the $300,000+. The impact fees, as you're seeing here, the water and stormwater impact fees can cover the eligible items by just reimbursing with fees that are collected in pods 1 and 2. And they're highlighted or shown in the map here. And then in order to cover the transportation cost, we'd need to jump outside of the project area and pull 38 lots from the reserves at Sky Ranch and 43 from the future area that's shown on the map here. And so the reimbursement of those fees would come in as they were collected, so the city would never be expending funds out ahead of when they collected them. That's a big item to note. But it also leaves the developer kind of playing the bank, because some of this development may not happen for years and years. And it keeps some of the reimbursement agreement, keeping it on our books for a long time. Potential for that.
Is that, sorry, go back one,
Oh.
because that's not even in the MDA. The future area is not included in this MDA.
It's not in the MDA, neither is the reserves at Sky Ranch.
Exactly.
The impact fees can be collected citywide and
Yeah.
expended on for transportation, there's one service area. So yeah, this works well with impact fee law, and this is kind of what I think the council has asked in the past, is how do we fund these? Where's the money coming from, just so we don't end up short. So the way we would bookkeep this is we would create a GIS shapefile, and we would collect the invoices from the developer when it was built. They would go to finance, and then GIS and finance. Every quarter, we'd pull and see how many, building permits were pulled in that area, and they would balance out until that balance got to zero. We'd reimburse what was collected in that quarter. So back to the $312,000 that would be the shortfall from what's not impact fee eligible. Since we looked at it and determined that it was nearly all, I think it was all water improvements, then that would be justified by paying out of water enterprise fund. And since they're not impact fee eligible, they're addressing existing deficiencies and things like that. They're just between the curbs and required to be paid for by the master development agreement. So we kind of talked a little bit about the timing here and when the funds would come in. So the enterprise fund reimbursed items or things that would be reimbursed out of the enterprise fund, they would be reimbursed as soon as the project was done and the city accepted it, was inspected and accepted. The impact fee items wouldn't be reimbursed until those fees were collected, and then they'd be paid back over time. So that's the background and the basis of this presentation is the council want us to move forward with a reimbursement agreement in this manner. One other option that was discussed in the staff report was if you go back to let me see if I can get there, the site plan for the subdivision, you can see that the road that comes out of the Pod 1 subdivision actually only ties in to Danzy Boulevard, barely off of Main Street, several hundred feet to the south. And so the rest of that road could take out of the requirement for the developer, but then the city would be on the hook to build it someday in the future. So that was the other option, just to lay all options on the table. Then you wouldn't be on the hook to reimburse as much, but you'd still need the water lines and those things in there. So it really didn't save very much money at the end of the day. It was like $138,000, I believe is what was in there. So we're just looking for direction on how to move forward.
So will you go back to the one that shows the impact fee, like the map? Yeah. So I know that impact fees can be used anywhere in the city for anything. I understand that concept. I dislike, in my mind, the idea behind impact fees is to take care of the areas it impacts, right? And so it's like, I hate saying like this future area, 43 lots, they just put a new pivot up on there. So I don't know that they're going to be developing that anytime soon. But if I think about like in the reserves at Sky Ranch, this is for a school. Essentially, it's to facilitate, because we agreed to make sure we would facilitate the school coming in there. So it's really to facilitate the opening of this school, which does impact everyone there. So it would make sense to me that that impact fee, even in the future, would be paid back to, because we had to build this road for the school, which will probably feed the children that come in there at some point. Does that make any sense?
I also, looking at the traffic impact study, this road was needed at some point in the development. Maybe pods 1 and 2 didn't require this road connection, but some of the development of the other pods up around the school required this connection through so that you didn't fail the intersection of 64th and Main. Yeah, there's a lot of things that this road's doing. It's servicing the school, but it's also servicing the general traffic to and from.
Sure, I don't mean to just isolate it and say it serves in the school, but part of this discussion is simply because we did it, we entered into an agreement to make sure the school can happen and function for our residents and the kids in our community, so they didn't have to be bused forever, So that was part of part of what really prompted us making this decision, was to try and allow our kids that live in our community to go to school in our community. Otherwise, they would have been being bused to other communities.
Another item that comes to mind is this area, that the 43 future lots area. We're going to be updating impact fees many times over the years, and this area we don't anticipate developing in the foreseeable future. There's a risk that if we enter into an agreement that we pay back a certain amount based on impact fees, and we lower our impact fees, if we're not fully obligated to pay them back, the developer could be left short at the end, because impact fees may not exist at that time. That when we do our study, the roads may be built and there may not be enough collected to pay them back. So it's another risk to keep in mind for putting projects on that are so far out.
Yeah, that's true. Good point, thank you.
I really like how Jonathan's gone through and highlighted and subcategorized everything and broke it all the way down. It's easy for us to comprehend and see where that funds go to or will go to, and then see what's actually reimbursed instead of the 2-point-something million. It's really nice to see that's, just under $500,000, then some of it's just remaining, so.
Blake, help me out. I mean, I'm being kind of new to this process. So we're obligated to help through because of the MDA, because of an MDA in place?
It would be an impact fee eligible road anyway.
Okay.
But in the impact fee study, if you have a road that, there's existing deficiencies, they call them. So if that road is needed today for, say, 2,000 vehicles per day, but then in the future, you're going to have 20,000 vehicles per day, the 1/10 or the 1/10 cost there, whatever, the two out of 20 would be an existing deficiency and wouldn't be impact fee eligible. And the city would need to pay for that portion of the cost by either general fund or some other fund. And so I guess that's how it would normally work, but the MDA says the city has to pay for everything from curb to curb regardless of that. So in this instance, we have the water line that is not impact fee eligible, and so we have to pay for that extra cost. The MDA did obligate us to that above and beyond cost that we normally would not need to pay for. Or in this case, if that development, if the water line has to come through and provide the water for existing developments, and that development doesn't need it, it's just getting built because they just happen to be along it, then the city would normally pay for those improvements out of Water Enterprise Fund, like we're proposing here. Similar case just happened down by the reserves at Sky Ranch. We did a reimbursement agreement for just that case.
Is it safe to make the statement then that these costs are being reimbursed out of the appropriate funds?
Yes.
We're not robbing Peter to pay
that was
Paul
mine.
here.
Nope.
This is the way it should be done.
Nope,
Okay.
this is, I think we're doing exactly what was asked by the council when we were doing these agreements, bringing them back to you and showing you how the money's going to work and how we can pay for it.
Yeah, that's the one comment I want to make, is that this is much better than how it had been done previously. We know where it's coming from, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, this probably goes along with your questions. The issue still is 43 lots in the future from that area, 38 from the other area. Well, we know the Sky Ranch is getting built. They're gonna have reimbursement. So what is the difference between the obligation for impact fees in this area with an MDA versus an area like Sky Ranch that does not have an MDA?
I don't think you want to get too confused in the MDA obligation there. I think,
Maybe I'll state it this way and tell me if I'm wrong. The issue with the MDA is it states that we have to reimburse them for all of these things, and it doesn't tie it to their area or to a limited amount,
Limited to the amount collected.
right?
Yeah, that's where the fault is, yeah.
That, to me, that's the issue with any of these MDAs that were written in that way, right? And then the potential problem in the future is, well, at some point the music stops and whoever's last doesn't get paid back, right? This is, to me, this is a huge step in the right direction because you've identified, and hopefully we have a system now, I'm looking at Nathan, right, that we know this is where these funds are gonna come from. As you stated, it'll be reimbursed as these are built. And we've identified these two other areas that will help contribute to that, and the developer knows that that's the case, right? So they're not gonna be paid back until those are developed later on.
unless the council chose to pay back earlier at some point, for some reason, 43 lots.
But then
came
we
up
know
some-
that we're planning on using it from those areas, so when they come in, we know what we're dealing with, instead of always just going, well, there's some here this year, so let's pay that one, and we'll see what happens next year, right? So this is
More deliberative.
Yes,
more
very-
intentional, yeah, it's good.
excellent.
And we just, that 43, it represents a little over $90,000. That's our anticipating that someday in the future, that property will build and will probably sell for an outrageous amount of money when it does, but that homes will be built there probably at some point.
But at
But
least
if
we've
we chose to,
identified,
but if we chose to fund it from general fund earlier, it would be about $90,000.
at least we've identified that,
Yeah.
and we have a
Yeah.
plan that's
Yeah.
where it would be from, so as those come in, that plan can continue, right? And we're not just, it really isn't just musical chairs anymore, and we'll see who ends up with that one.
It's
So
definitely
that's
mapped and
hu- yeah,
tracked.
Several huge steps in the right direction.
Great job.
So I guess the question is, does the council want us to move forward with the entire road and the reimbursement agreement for the entire road? Or do you want to cut it short and do a reimbursement agreement for only a portion of the road?
All of it.
All? I think all there. Yep. That's what we anticipated, but we just needed to ask, so. Okay, I think I got direction to move forward, so appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Tell Jonathan, great job, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, item 10, future meetings. March 17th is a planning commission meeting, 7 o'clock. March 23rd is city council work meeting, 5:30. Council meeting at 7. And then on the 30th, joint city council planning commission meeting at 6. And can I just put a plug in here? As a former planning commissioner, please, council, make this a priority. This is that joint, because the planning commission looks forward to that to kind of bring their vision, you know, kind of a lot of their thoughts to us. So please, I know it's an extra Wednesday, but, you know, or I guess, but if you can make that a priority, I think it's a great time. I love the joint meeting aspect, so would love to have as many of us there as possible. Events, March 14th, second week of Hungry Harriman, out here in front at 5 o'clock. And with that being said, I'll accept, we do not have no closed items, correct, Chase? Nathan, nothing closed? So we just need to, a motion to adjourn. Council, I'll go back to work meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sherry, second by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Antonio.
Booyah.